Hello, welcome to the Green Team on the Legendarium. I'm Befuddled Panda, and I have with me today Hurinfan,
Hi.
Starkast,
Hi.
Kyptan,
Hello, everyone.
and Mr. Anderson.
Hello.
Hello. Well, today's episode is a discussion on a book with a really fantastic name, but, well, we'll get into it later. Battle of the Linguist Mages by Scotto Moore. The first part of this episode will be spoiler-free. We'll give a spoiler warning before we dive into all the details. This is going to be an interesting discussion, I think. We're going to be a little bit across the spectrum. But before we start our discussion, what is this book even about? Well, the little blurb says, in modern-day Los Angeles, a shadowy faction led by the governor of California develops the arcane art of combat linguistics, planting the seeds of a future totalitarian empire in Scotto Moore's Battle of the Linguist Mages. Something interesting about the author is that he was an active playwright, residing in Seattle, producing over 40 plays during that time. One of his notable productions was an a cappella sci-fi musical called Silhouette, which apparently won the 2018 Gregory Falls Award for Outstanding New Play. He also wrote, directed, and produced 3 seasons of the sci-fi comedy web series The Coffee Table, and wrote and starred in the horror comedy play H.P. Lovecraft Stand-Up Comedian, which, by the way, if you go to his website, there is a recording of that play. It's like about an hour long. I haven't watched it all yet, but I'm definitely going to go watch that. Okay, so this is the spoiler-free section of the episode. So please keep that in mind when you give your answers. First question. Okay. How would you describe this book to someone without spoiling it? And Kyptan, let's go to you first. How would you describe this book?
Like Ready Player One, but a bit more queer.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd probably say it's like YA Snow Crash
Okay.
combined with that.
Okay. Huron?
I wrote this answer down last night, and I put like Ready Player One, but with real world magic.
So far, so good. Okay, Starcast?
I would say a Candy Crush fever dream.
A Candy Crush fever dream?
Fever Dream is good.
Yes, fever dream is good. Mr. Anderson, anything to add there?
I said people are trained in a magic language by playing a video game and then have to fight evil or something.
Or something, indeed. I think the Ready Player One vibes it's definitely there. It is amped up on EDM with splashes of glitter and perhaps in the vein of Monty Python a bit. And like you can really tell the author likes music.
Certain types of
Yeah. Okay. Next question is, what were you expecting from this book? Did the book meet your expectations? Why or why not? Starcast, let's start with you.
Oh god. I didn't have any expectations. I didn't even read the synopsis, and I still managed to get disappointed.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay. Huron.
This book was sold to me as I'll just say, I was expecting a decent story and decent characters and it to be funny. And I knew I wouldn't like the VR game aspect, but it was compared to Gideon the Ninth and Snow Crash, and I really both liked those. But it was none of those things.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, Kip.
I mean, I didn't want to say it in my original synopsis, but I would have appended worse to a couple of those things that I called it. A worse version of Snow Crash, a worse version of
It's not
worse than Ready Player One. No, that is correct.
That's hard to do.
Wow.
That would be impressive.
Okay, first of all, I think wait, Starcast, have you read Ready Player One?
No.
Okay.
I heard it's bad.
Okay, so I think
It's
on
fun.
this panel, it's me, Hurin, and Kip who have read Ready Player One. I've also seen the films. Have you guys seen the film?
Yes,
No.
Okay,
with my cousins.
nice. Okay, so yes, there's going to be quite a bit of Ready Player One comparison, I think. Just it's kind of inevitable because that's the most recent, I think, example of this kind of story.
I think it's obvious that it's pretty inspired by it too.
Example of a VR game that determines the fate of Earth. Yeah.
I mean, potentially. Okay, so Mr. Anderson, we haven't gotten to you yet. What were you expecting from this book? You read it
I was,
because you were kind of forced to, so
yes.
by
I was
me.
just kind of expecting this like ridiculous, over the top, kind of silly, adventure. And in some ways it was, and in other ways it kind of wasn't.
Mm-hmm. I had low expectations for this book, mostly because like when you have such a ridiculous premise, like it can very easily go very poorly. And I was drawn in. So I was walking through a local bookstore. This book was like one of those books that was like cover face out, very prominently placed, and it had the local author tag. And I was like,
Oh.
ooh, let me check this out. And then I read the title. The cover is very eye catching. The
I
title
really
is
like the
very
cover.
interesting. Sorry?
The title's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was super intrigued, read the premise. I was like, this sounds so ridiculous. This would be fun to talk about on the podcast. And so I picked it up, and in some ways, it did meet my expectations in terms of like I was expecting ridiculous. I didn't quite expect that kind of ridiculous. And then in other ways, it surprised me, like pleasantly surprised me by how thought out some of the elements were. Um, and we'll get into that in the spoiler section. Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
say something?
Mhm.
Because the title was interesting. Um, that reminded me when I read the title, I thought maybe it's gonna be a little bit like the Magicians, so
Oh.
like a battle between multiple linguist mages.
Mhm.
So maybe that was also like a little bit in my head,
Mhm.
so subconsciously.
Yeah. I mean, the word mages, I was thinking more like magic, and we got more sci-fi than
Mm.
magic.
You're expecting more of a fantasy feel.
Yeah. Yeah, Huron?
I want to say one more thing that I expected that I was disappointed with. So I read the synopsis, and this game that they're playing is called Sparkle Dungeon.
Yes.
And when I hear Sparkle Dungeon, I imagine like a Lisa Frank type aesthetic,
Oh dear.
and that's what I was looking forward to. And I did not like the aesthetic that they were going for whatsoever.
It was a lot.
I haven't heard Lisa Frank in decades.
Oh yeah, Starkast. Do you know what Lisa Frank is?
No.
Okay, so us Americans, we'll fill you in. How would you all describe Lisa Frank?
Extremely colorful,
Mhm.
animal print, and mostly consumed by people in elementary and middle school.
Usually targeted towards girls. Very, very colorful. Lots of rainbows and unicorns. It's glorious.
And it was
You should
very
Google it
popular
later.
in the 90s.
Yes,
Yeah,
back when
Late
neon
80s,
was a
90s.
new invention.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just realized I never answered what I was expecting from this book, and I was expecting a Snow Crash-like science fiction novel that contained a smorgasbord of ideas that bring you through generations of technological development.
Mm.
And that was kind of all delivered. But the Charles Stross endorsement may
Mhm.
have put my expectations a little bit too high.
I see. I've never read Snow Crash, so I didn't have any expectations on that front. So I don't even know
Snow
what Snow
Crash has
Crash
like
is
the
about.
best chapter win of any book I've ever read.
Snow Crash? Nice.
Kib, don't give that face. You know it's great.
Snow Crash is a great book. It has good parts and bad parts.
And chapter one's the best part.
Chapter 1 is great. Chapter 1 is fun.
And then it
But
goes
I'm more of a
downhill?
YT stan. It
Okay,
gets weirder.
fair. Okay. let's talk a bit about the writing style without getting into like spoiler territory. What did you think about the writing style? Because it is not everyone's cup of tea. Did you like it or not? Why?
I have a caveat I have to bring up, and I don't know if anyone noticed, because every time a new character was introduced, it was talked about their pronouns and
Yeah.
their ethnicity.
Ethnicity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I noticed all characters were white, besides one character who was black, and that character was also only the love interest, and everyone else was white, and there were no characters who were Latin or of Asian descent or anything else.
There
And
was
I
one
just
non-binary character, but yeah.
yeah, and that seemed to me a little bit like tokenism, even though I
Mhm.
know it was not the intent, but it came across that way.
Mhm.
I mean, to be fair, most of the characters are also like not great people.
Yeah, and they're flat.
What was
I
these
would
And
say.
they're
characters?
so flat. Oh my god. Yeah, they're not characters.
So that's actually a really interesting point. Like I agree with about the tokenism point, but when I read, like I did a sample of the various reviews that are posted on Goodreads, like 1 star, 3 star, 5 star, and people's take on the characters, it's like all over the place. Some people were like, these characters are so well thought out, and then others were like, wow, like I can't tell villain A from villain B from villain C. So it's
Yeah.
just such an interesting spectrum of like, what do you think makes good characterization, and then how that actually applies to what you're reading. Why would you say that the characters are flat?
Well, one reason is we barely saw them.
That and and their decisions were all over the place, and it only was there to further the plot, not
Okay.
because they are characters who would make
Yep.
the
Yep.
decisions in that moment, but because they had to further the plot.
Yeah. And I think that's probably like going back to expectations. I was expecting like a fun time and not like, Malazan level or something like really dense. I was looking for something more fluffy. And typically those are going to be more plot driven. So I really appreciated the plot drivenness of this book. Huron, what did you think of the writing style?
I hated it.
Tell us more.
Okay, so it starts out and it's this quirky gamer girl who's just talking to me all the time, and she's using
Mhm.
modern day quips, and she thinks she's so smart. I hate those kind of characters. And so, like, chapter 1 of the book, I told you, hey, I'm chapter 1 of the book. I think I'm gonna hate this book.
Mhm.
uh,
Says the person who also read Throne of Glass.
oh god, that's why this was not the worst book I read this month. But I'm not gonna get to that. But like, it seemed, I think most people are gonna agree with me. Almost all of this book was exposition. It's just
Yes.
her either talking to me, explaining me things, or her talking with somebody and they explaining things to each other. Like,
Mhm.
almost nothing actually happens on page. It's just everybody talking to each other or the annoying protagonist telling me things. And I hate that.
Yeah, I have something to say to that about exposition.
Uh-huh.
And the magic system, it was explained really, really difficult. And I still don't understand it completely because English is my second language and
That's not the
linguistics.
reason, buddy. That's not the reason. The
It's
magic system doesn't make sense. I'm sorry.
okay. I haven't understood uh, of the explanation most of the words even.
Mhm.
So
Actually, that
Mm.
that is a very interesting perspective that I wanted to bring up is like a lot of the references, a lot of the like little pop culture Easter eggs, and also the like social, political, economic commentary is very American centric. And so,
Very Twitter
Starcast.
centric, hot take centric.
And so for Starcast, like I wonder, how much of that were you able to like pick up and understand versus you're like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I don't care.
I probably haven't even noticed one, how should I say, a pop culture reference, but
Mm.
I did notice like the political, how should I say?
Anti-capitalism.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, that was, I would say, very on the nose, and
Yeah.
it was very like level 11 from 10.
It was not subtle.
It was level 11, and it was sketches. It was just like, this is the stereotype of this type of villain, and we're gonna roll with that.
Hmm.
I remember in my notes, I wrote when the character, her name was Reagan, was introduced. I'm like, hey, this is the villain.
What, you mean the unethical researcher? Yeah.
But before I knew any of that,
Also, that's her last name, I think.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot her first name.
It's okay. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but okay.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
You don't know when you're getting into
It's
it.
true. We can bleep that. We can bleep that.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, what did you think about the writing style?
I think it was fine. I don't think this was super well written, but it was just kind of, it was fine. It got you from point A to point B, I guess.
It got the job done to
Yeah.
tell the thing that it wanted to tell you.
I mean, none of the characters have what I would call like an arc or anything like that. I guess we've said before, it kind of goes in what you were expecting from it. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just like, all right, let's just go with this, I think it's one thing. But if you're looking to understand the magic system or whatever, then you might be like, well, wait, what? So, yeah.
I think it was written in a way that would make for a very pretty adaptation.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
I just think that
So-
this is almost like theatrical. Like, it's almost he was
Yes.
writing another play or something.
but that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like he is a playwright, and like when you read it, you can tell like, okay,
Mm.
that's where all the exposition is, and that a lot of things are conveyed through dialogue, which I actually really enjoyed that part because Mr. Anderson and we listened to it on audiobook. And if you don't like the voice of the narrator, you're not going to enjoy the audiobook, but it took me a little bit to get used to her voice, but once I did, like I actually really enjoyed it, and she does different voices for the different characters. And I think this does go well with audiobook, with the exception of some of the more detailed, complicated explanations of like the magic system, and also something else we'll talk about a little later in the spoiler section.
I'll just say I too listened to the audiobook and I thought the narrator was fine. She did a good job.
Was she, Mr. Anderson? I think you were telling me she was also the Halo. Was it Halo?
Yeah, she in Halo 3. She plays a fairly main character in it.
Nice. Okay, to wrap up the spoiler-free section, I think people are getting a sense already how we would rate this book. But let's just give our explicit rating, and also, who would you recommend this book to? Like, who do you think would actually enjoy this book? Okay, let's start with Mr. Anderson.
I said like I'd give it like a 75%, or I guess a 3.75 out of 5. It like it was fun to go through it. I don't think I'll ever read it again, and I'll probably forget a lot of the details within a few months. But it was fun, and I'd recommend if someone came to me and said, I just want something to like laugh at for a few days while I'm on vacation, I'd say, well, pick this up.
Cool. Starcast?
I think I would rate it 2 stars to be thrown in the rift and never seen again. Then, and who would I recommend it to? I think to people who want to rip apart a book, because I know know someone who likes to do that. adopted, and they are torturing themselves right now through a series they hate. So
Oh my
to judge
goodness.
people.
If that's your
Okay.
2-star review, what are your 1-star review like?
Oh,
Oh my goodness, Kip.
I'm torn between 2 and 3 stars. But I would recommend it to someone who doesn't care if magic systems make sense,
Mm-hmm.
wants to read something that talks about like pretty cosplay,
Mm-hmm.
and also maybe to people who are writers who want to learn what not to do.
Oh, is this this book isn't useless, but it can be used as a bad example?
Yeah, yeah. So someone who like just lets the words wash over them and just like wants to tune in at the joke every now and then and just, is doing something else with their primary attention span. That might work for them.
Okay. Hurin.
I had a hard time coming up with who I would recommend it to. I'd probably give this 1.5 stars.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever given anything 1 star, just because I think I always find something to get from a book, even if I hate it. So, but it's not as bad as Star Glass, so like maybe, I don't know, 1.75. Who I would recommend it to?
You are not the target audience for
Someone
Throne
who
of Glass.
really liked Player One.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard it was a romance, and I wanted romance. We should do a
The
review
romance
on
was
that.
bad.
No, never mind. It's
It's not even
okay.
there.
This is not a Throne Glass.
Wait, were you talking
Someone
about
who
Throne
really-
of Glass? Like it was sold to you as a romance?
Yeah, like I was expecting a romance with like
Okay.
assassins. And I'm like, cool. Yeah, I like
Got
that.
it. Okay. So it wasn't about this book. This book wasn't sold to you as a romance.
No.
Okay.
Actually,
Just
I thought the romance in
clarifying.
this book was better than Throne of Glass.
Oh dear.
Wow, I'm never reading Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
It makes no
Okay,
sense.
so
Okay, so who would I recommend this to? Somebody who really wants to read something like Ready Player One with music and aliens.
for my first read through, I give it 3.75. And I actually want to read it again because I did have a lot of fun. And it's ridiculous sci-fi. And I want to see what I missed because I listened to it on audiobook and we were on a road trip driving. I may have dozed here and there, but that's not the fault of the book necessarily. It's just if you put me in a car for like more than 15 minutes, I will doze. And I really want to see a movie or like miniseries adaptation. I think animation style would work well. So, who I would recommend this to, same thing. I think like if you like Ready Player One and want something similar, then similar but more ridiculous, then give this a shot. And I actually recommended this to Stephanie from the main Legendarium crew to give it a try. I'm curious to see what she thinks after she listens to it.
Oh, geez, I'm gonna have to warn her now.
Yeah,
Warn her?
I hope she still
Don't
listens to
warn
other
her.
people's recommendations after that.
Yeah,
Oh.
me too.
Okay, she was like recommended The Stand by Stephen King, and she hated it.
Oh yeah,
So,
and she said in the last episode that she really liked Ready Player One. So
she does. She listens to it like once a year at least.
Oh my.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, hey, maybe you want to give this a try and see if you like it. Okay, spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. We are diving into spoilers. Okie dokie. Let's see if we can make this not another hour long, but we'll see. Okay, so everything is fair game. What elements did you enjoy and why?
Are
Mr.
there any?
Anderson. Sorry?
Are there any good points?
Okay, so Starkast has nothing to say for this question. Mr. Anderson, what elements did you enjoy?
I really liked the bits when we were in Sparkle Dungeon. It was just so silly and dumb and just fun.
Mm-hmm. Could you picture the game?
I kind of could. It depends. Sometimes I was like, no, I can't see where they're going with this, but a lot of times I could kind of see what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Could you picture
someone
the
said like a
gameplay?
Candy Crush fever dream.
Yeah, Starkast said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of rings true. I can see that.
Kip, what were you saying?
Like, could you picture the gameplay? Because I could not.
I sometimes could, but then they'd like once they started to talk about spell casting in the game, they kind of
kept
lost me
genre
what that was
switching
supposed to
and
be. Yeah.
like contradicting itself.
The weapons, when they talked about the weapons specifically and what the weapons would do, or like when she was describing the warehouse, those parts were more vivid for me.
I kind of imagine World of Warcraft mixed with Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Crypt,
Has anyone
that's the
played
one I
that?
was thinking of. Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's really fun. It's really cool, actually. I'd recommend it.
Ooh.
But you have to like time your attacks based on the beat of the game and the
Oh,
relative position of the enemies.
gotcha.
I'm just wondering how that turns into a raidable environment.
Mm-hmm. Other elements you enjoy, Kip? Do you have anything?
I liked the weapons, costuming, and set design.
Mm-hmm.
Everything other than that I had problems with.
Okay. I really enjoyed the twist that happened. It was like basically end of every part there was like a major twist. And also like aside from the main characters, like the author was not shy about like ending other characters. So
Were they?
Yeah. I
yeah.
think most characters who died were either dead or didn't really were bad I meant, or were later revived.
She was revived, yeah.
All the major like named ones anyways that weren't villains, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I said, like, aside from the main character, like, she did. I wasn't expecting, what's his name? The L guy. There.
Oh.
Oh, the cult leader?
Yeah,
Lonzo?
that
Yeah.
guy. Lonzo.
Lonzo, yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to die, but then it just, like, happened. And then also, Radford also got
Oh yeah.
X'd.
Yep.
Yeah. Kieran, any elements you enjoyed? What
There
did you
were
take
some.
away from this book?
Let's see. I liked the idea of power morphemes. I thought it had a really good potential to make an interesting story. I liked that the power came from punctuation marks, which are aliens. That's about it. I thought the interrobang was a really cool interest too. That like it's a man-made like exclamation mark. Like it makes absolutely no sense, but it's pretty cool. And I like the fact that the man-made punctuation marks are freedom fighters / terrorists, and I like that. I thought that was funny.
Nice. Any other elements that people enjoyed?
Like, I have a list of things that I thought had great potential, but I didn't
Yeah.
end up liking because of the implementation and execution. But like, I can't
Fair.
say that I enjoyed them overall.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that's the majority of the book.
There was one piece that I did enjoy, and that was the discussion on godhood and the physical manifestation of that, which makes me think of similar commentary on godhood in Malazan, which we recently read and was like very prominent in the Bone Hunters. But this was portrayed in a sci-fi way, and more straightforward, in my opinion.
It's also pretty prominent in a book that Kip and I are reading recently. Fall of Hyperion.
Yeah, I
Oh.
just want to know that if 10 million people believing that someone is God is enough for that person to become God, why has it never happened before?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. Another thing I just thought about it, that because we talked earlier about the author being a theater
A playwright.
a playwright writer. I just thought as a musical it would be really cool because I'm imagining this one scene where the main character is in her head with the punctuation mark, and the punctuation mark is starting in a music number explaining to her the 109th power
Polymorphine.
morpheme. Yes.
Yes. There is a lot of
can
potential there
definitely
for
see
that.
that. I can definitely see this as like a super expensive, overproduced Broadway play.
Sure. Except nobody in the audience would be able to follow this in 2 hours.
Hey, the costuming would be so on point, though.
The costuming would be amazing.
Okay, so let's get into what elements did we not enjoy, and I'm gonna put a time limit on this. Um, let's start with Kip, and part of this is also you had suggested a question: what elements of the story contain incorrect research? So, what did you not enjoy? What did you notice was
So
not
the
quite
parts
right?
for incorrect research for me were mostly around the video gaming aspects.
Okay.
It didn't feel like the author always knew what they were talking about, and sometimes that would really break me out. Like, and it started right at the beginning of the novel when they were in a 3-person raid. I was like, what is this? This is not a raid. This is entirely the wrong terminology. This and also that a world first was occurring just before the release of the next iteration of the game. Apparently no one had beaten the boss in the game until the new one was about to come out. That's not generally something that happens. Also, that one person could speed run through all 4 games and do it best as everyone. Fine, I'll accept that. But we never once saw her acting like a gamer who was a speedrunner. Her personality did not match that. She was always running away from new opportunities in the game, which is never something that you do. She made the whole rift caused by the 4 artifacts was so central to the plot, and I had problems with it from the get-go, because why would that ever happen? Why would 4 items that are coded by Cameron, when used in combination, create a tear in space-time that leads to the logosphere?
I don't understand
It
how
was
this
not
works.
intentional.
You've clearly never collected enough high-level artifacts in some of these games, you know.
That was like one of the first things that I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, how the hell did the game developers not know that this was in their game? Which is absolutely ridiculous and does not make sense at all. Like I've made
Absolutely
video games.
ridiculous.
Because
I think-
aliens, Kieran, aliens.
Exactly. Thank you for proving my point.
And if diva casting is so powerful that it gives you an undeniable edge in combat, why is no one else using it to the point where she can't even list someone who can diva cast who's in the game on like a regular basis?
But I really think with the Rift, I think the idea was because it's powered by everyone thinking the artifacts are so powerful and have so much magic in them that at the same time where she was in the game, they also were together in the logosphere. So they're, how should I say, they're whipped open that space to the rift because there was just too much magic and they acted a little bit like a black hole. That was
The
my
game
interpretation of it.
the game wasn't in the logosphere yet, though. Not really. Like, it hadn't been transmuted into it. But if that's all it takes, there should be singularities all over the place.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just the first occurrence of many. I don't know.
No, it makes no sense. I'm sorry.
Weird software bugs happen all the time, you know.
Weird
No one can
software
really
bugs
explain
happen
them.
all the time, sure. And that's basically what the book asks you to accept and then continues to base its foundation on it. And that's no.
Also, I'm so surprised at how fast Cameron managed to make a complete animation about how's her name? The
Delphine?
the yeah Delphine. Delphine after she goes completely woke and how quickly he manages to do that animation where they introduce the new Sparkle Dungeon 5. Like that takes a lot of work. And how many sad underpaid and overworked animation artist worked on that animation.
Yeah. Yeah. The time scales involved didn't make sense from a game development standpoint at all.
Hurin, anything else to add about elements you didn't enjoy?
My notes for this section are just everything else, compared to the things that I liked.
Okay. Succinct. Great. Mr. Anderson, anything else you would like to add?
Some of the like harder sci-fi bit where we're going deep into how language works and all that, it didn't seem to fit with the rest of it.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess that's the main thing.
I had a really hard time, and I still have a really hard time wrapping my head around the whole punctuation marks as aliens and how you really communicate with them and like how they even came into existence,
Mm.
all of that. I was just like, it just hurts my brain.
Yeah.
But maybe
That
that's the point.
that and I was disappointed with the enemy
The
because
thunderstorm?
yeah, I was so disappointed because the punctuation marks were like, oh my god, this great evil. They don't know what it is, and I expected something on the level of the real like the punctuation marks, and then it was just an evil thunderstorm. Yay! Because that's so original.
Well, the thunderstorm is it took me a while to really understand like what it was. And as far as I got was it was created, it was designed and manifested by some being that basically lost control of it and they can't stop it and it targets reality,
They
like it's anti-reality.
I don't think they lost control of it.
They said that they couldn't
Uh,
stop it.
Yeah, I
but
think
they
that was
wanted
because that
that.
was because it was intended to be unstoppable.
Well,
Yes.
but then that would mean that they lost control of it because they
No.
couldn't direct it or anything.
It did exactly what they wanted.
It did exactly what they wanted it to do. Or it didn't actually, because it became stoppable.
Yeah.
I lost in the Shimmerlands for a while.
No, and then it got
Uh,
deleted. It got removed. It got
yeah.
entirely removed.
Yeah, like I think parts of it was cool about the thunderstorm when it was explained that it would transmutate into like its enemies to really learn their weaknesses from the inside and then take them down that way, and they would target the powerful to really like instill fear in everyone else.
Unclear why that was needed, but yes.
Because reality is reality and it's anti-reality. Yes.
I thought it was doing that to like record the best of everything, because wasn't the goal at the end it would create a new reality?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
supposed to take the best of what it. So I'm not trying to defend it and say, oh, it was brilliantly thought out, but I think that's why it was targeting like the best first, was to have that stored for the next iteration.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it was supposed to like store everything. Does it
Yeah.
it only record the things that like go out to fight it head on, or does it just disregard the strength of like quietly accepting your death from an oncoming train? Like, does it really only accept resistance as a valid response?
Don't know.
Maybe just to start with. Or maybe it just takes out the strong first, so it's not not
It
stopped
takes
in
out
the
the
middle
strong
of the desert.
first.
But
Yeah.
it said that it was like designed specifically to like taunt them and make them despair.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And like, why is that necessary if all what you're doing is just ending things and recording them?
Yeah. The thunderstorm just I think it's like too many different things that it was trying to represent. Because at one point I was like, is this like depression? Is that what this is a symbol of?
It can't be a symbol of anything. I'm sorry.
And then the other thing was I wanted more of Jordan Connolly. I thought she was a pretty cool character, but we didn't really get much of her. And
That and her final role doesn't make any sense.
her as
I
the
think.
pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One could say, yeah, she's the prime minister of the new game, and she learned through that. But she's a mechanist. She has other departments where she's a lot better at. Let's say it
Yeah.
like that.
Yep. The idea that you can only control the ship by singing was weird. That was very weird.
The game mechanics is pretty weird.
Especially when it was already explained that you can set up essentially what are like macros, which you trigger them with a short sequence, and then the rest of it plays out in the logosphere.
Hmm.
But no, you need like a couple minute long movement of a song in order to have the fine control to steer a ship. I'm sorry, I can do that with a joystick.
But it's not as powerful and accurate. They explained that at the beginning with the whole X being upset about the noise. Anyway, okay.
That was an artificial limit by a game system designed to teach spellcasting.
Yes. Okay, moving
not
on
real.
to what was the most ridiculous thing about this book? If you could pick one thing, what is the most ridiculous thing?
Oh God.
The Rift. It's the Rift.
The Rift. Okay.
That was created by her equipping 4 items at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That the developers didn't test.
Yep.
Okay. I mean,
4 items from 4 separate games, which are somehow all in one player inventory, because things go forward in this game. Which, like, I guess, like Pokemon has a thing like that, but not to
Yeah.
5. No,
but
clean
not to
break with
5.
5.
Yeah. Five was all
Can you
new.
imagine the fan uproar if Pokemon did that? No, you can't trade anything into the new one. Nothing.
That reminds me of Free Guy. Anyway, Starkast, did you have an answer?
2.
Okay.
One, the punctuation marks. They were really crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then the cardboard characters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were really cardboard.
Did you have something else?
Besides that, no.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
I just remember when they said the punctuations were aliens from outer space.
Yep.
That got me. And then when we're talking to Maddie and she brings out the thing, it says, "I am the mother something or another in Terabang." That was
I was definitely not expecting the interrobang.
I didn't even know they existed before that.
Oh, really?
I did
Yeah.
like the mention by name of a couple of the artificial punctuation marks, including one that they couldn't mention by name because it's trademarked.
But you can mention it here.
They basically called out the Sark mark.
The Sark mark? I don't know what that is.
It's a trademarked or copyright, I forget which one. Punctuation mark designed to express sarcasm on the internet.
Oh my
That
goodness.
was its original purpose. And it looks like a kind of upside down question mark, kind of.
It's like an ear.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. We kind of talked about the magic system. Anything else people want to add about it? What you thought of it?
I thought it did exactly what the plot needed it to do at any given moment.
Yes. I did like the distinction between transmutation and teleportation. I thought that was well explained. Kip looks
kinda like-
dubious.
I thought the method of both was interesting, but I also thought that it was insane that they thought that, oh, after a certain number of teleportations, you're eventually no longer you. I'm like, no, after the first one, given what you just told us, you're no longer
Well, it was
you.
it was transmutation after a certain number of transmutations.
Also teleportation.
Yeah.
Mm,
Tra-
Really?
Because the first
transmutation.
time
Yeah,
they
transmutation seemed
teleported.
to be more
Mm.
transmutation seemed to be more lossless.
See, this is why I gotta go back and reread this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, teleportation had a checksum built into it so that you could keep a patch. You could have like a change log.
I was just thinking that the first time it teleported that I was never ever going to do that if I had the chance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean that or I would, because I mean there's parts of me I'd like to change, sure, but
It's the transmutation that changes you because you can like
Both.
edit parts of you.
Both.
It's both.
It's both.
Okay.
The way that she described teleportation is that like it takes like parts of you and changes them when you come out.
There's a
So now I
compression
think this is
algorithm applied.
against what I just said because I thought it was really
Yeah.
well explained and I thought I understood the difference, and apparently I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to say, you have to imagine it like, in a million years, you're only atoms. And basically, the punctuation marks try to search as many atoms you are made out of and take you to another place, but it can't find all of your atoms. So there are change also some things. Also you mutate a little bit.
hmm Okay. How would you describe power morphemes? Anyone? Okay, Karen.
I just wrote down wasted potential.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fair. Anyone else?
Things that
Yeah.
seem to have a direct one-to-one correlation with video game spellcasting.
I put atomic linguistic building blocks that can be put together to psychologically influence human behavior, but also the physical world around you? Question mark. It's kind of like string theory, but taken to the extreme.
Yeah, I thought that it completely failed the Sanderson laws of magic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it's so badly explained. Like you need a diploma in that stuff to understand it, and then
But
even then you can't understand it.
that's kind of realistic because of what the
And
frick
they spend half the book
punctuation alien.
explaining it.
If it made more sense, I would agree. But I I really don't feel like I failed to read what they were telling me, but I just
Yeah.
I do not believe that things would work that way.
Okay. Well,
Specifically in that there would be such a correlation between the difficulty of saying something and the useful effect that it has on the world.
okay.
That shouldn't be a direct linear relationship.
Yeah, and it took such a long time for me to realize that explained with Ra and I have no idea what other blocks, but he could have just said Do Re Mi, and everyone would have understood. But no, he made completely other blocks up and then tried to explain it, and I had to think for multiple chapters until I got, oh, it's like Do Re Mi in music, where you can combine several of them and make something new out of it.
I think it wasn't. I mean, the do re mi part, that's like one version of it, like how you could use it. But I think the point he was saying is also there are just like very minute sounds, like audio blocks, that they have so much meaning within it, but you wouldn't know unless you actually studied it.
Yes. They're units, they're the smallest possible unit of meaning.
Right.
And power morphemes are the smallest possible units of meanings that can communicate to the punctuation marks to change the world around you, because they live partially in the logosphere and they essentially act as like power morpheme interpreters.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's like the
You,
clearest way to explain it.
yeah, and you explained it better than the whole book did.
Agreed.
If power morphemes were real, would you use them? And how would you use them?
No, too much pain.
Too much pain.
Oh, that is another thing that I wanted to bring up for things that were inaccurate was vocal training.
Yeah.
Everything that this book has said about vocal training was so wrong. And we just have to
what?
assume that the magic is healing their vocal cords.
I see. So you're saying like it would have just destroyed their vocal cords.
It would have destroyed their vocal cords, especially the way that they keep talking about it and like, oh no, I was worn out for the day, I destroyed my voice. You can't keep doing that.
Well, it did get to a point where she was able to heal herself, or at least buff herself in the real world, which that's a whole nother can of worms.
Eventually it got there, yeah, but it seemed like the punctuation marks were taking a role in healing our protagonist's body without her knowledge for purposes that went against their design,
Mm.
which really the punctuation marks were not developed as characters with agency
No, they weren't.
at all.
They were an
Deus Ex
idea.
Machina. They were Deus Ex Machina.
Yes, they were Deus Ex Machinas that showed up whenever they needed to.
Anybody else have anything to add here? How would you use them? Would you use them?
I would not.
I would
be more
absolutely use
like-
them to influence people at work.
To not ask you questions.
Yes.
Hey, if they're real, who's gonna unilaterally disarm? Like, not me.
I think too small. I said I would psych myself up to make myself more productive.
You can have world domination with power morphians. Like they
I
are
don't want
the end
world
all be all
domination.
of weaponry. They can do anything you want. You can make a new universe. You can make a new world. You can travel the stars. You can
I don't want
heal
world
people.
domination for sure.
You can bring people back from life with power morphemes if you have the right video game item.
But that's the thing is like, you know, if you make that big of an impact, like what ripple effects it would have downstream.
Oh yeah, no.
Right.
Power
So
morphemes
that's why
end
I'm
the
keeping
universe.
it pretty small and localized to me.
Sure.
I would not use them. I'd probably be more likely to join the resistance and try to destroy all of them. They're scary.
Nice. There was something that we haven't really touched on is the Church of Gorvod.
You mean Scientology?
Scientology.
No, for legal reasons, completely different.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Church of Scientology actually goes after this book.
Eh,
No.
They're very litigious.
they're very litigious, is true.
I
But
mean,
it does portray one of them in a positive light, so who knows?
Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got eradicated like partway through the book, and it just never came up
Yeah.
again.
I really thought Jordan being the head of the church was going to come up again. I was kind of disappointed
But it never
didn't.
did.
Yeah. That got dropped.
Sequel bait.
This is supposed to be a standalone.
We missed a pretty good chance at a character development through Jordan, with her coming to terms with, the church is probably a scam. Like,
Oh.
it would have been a good character arc.
Uh-huh.
I don't think so. I think the church in this was like portrayed as our protagonist is a wild scion who saved the world and is immortal now.
Mm-hmm.
So they were right all
They
along.
They were right all along. They just had
Yeah.
some corruption, and like, what church doesn't have corruption? It's not their fault.
Right. All hail
Yeah.
Gorvod.
Yeah, all hair Gavad.
Which is not a cephalopod. Okay. Starting to wrap up our discussion, our lovely discussion here. Did you have any favorite characters? Like, could you even describe a character other than the main character in the book?
I mean,
I
I could describe them, but like not physically.
Oh, you could tell us their race and their pronouns and kind of what they look like.
I'm good with the pronouns. I'm not sure I'd get the races right.
I think I liked Dauphine.
The Delphine.
Yeah, God, I can't remember.
There's no L there, is there?
No, it's Dauphine.
Yeah,
Delphine.
Delphine.
Dauphine. Dauphine. Her name. I liked her as a character, as in she had great potential, but nothing was done with her and her story got sidelined very much and disappointed.
Really liked her. I really liked the narrator's voice for her. It was very ethereal.
Ethereal.
Ethereal. That's the word. Yes. I actually liked Olivia as a character. Like she
Really?
was she was a villain, but like she just did the job that role needed, you know? And sometimes that's what I want because I wasn't looking for like really
Didn't she betray her
complex.
employer?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
she
okay.
I mean,
betrayed
who
Okay.
hasn't
Violet.
thought about doing that?
Okay, so not her like literal job. Okay.
No, like she's like very logical, you know, and she's all about like the mission, that the goal that she needed to achieve, regardless of like who she needed to betray or whatever. I mean, she even betrayed Alexander Reese at one point.
But I didn't like that it was said like, oh, she's not a, how should I say, a great character. No, she's a completely bad character, and everything she does, it's bad again. Like she she wants to save humanity. No, she wants to save humanity and control their minds. Like that was I didn't like that.
Well,
Like
the way that I saw it was the controlling of minds was to save humanity. So, like, the ultimate goal still stayed the same. It was just the strategy, the method with which she would accomplish that
mm,
needed to change as circumstances came up.
I will
you
say the speed of their pivots was really good until the end.
mm,
The ending did drag a bit.
It dragged and then it just stopped. It was like he
And
hit the
cut.
count and he was like, "Okay, we're done."
I was at the end of part 4 and I thought still not over. like, like she already had godhood at that point. And then we had a quick intermission of, oh, she and her love interest go to a planet and get stranded there for some month, and then
That
we
part
have
was
the
a bit
end
too long. The
at the
beacon.
end. Yeah,
I was like, when is Sir Trancelot going to come back with the other artifact? Never.
Uh, okay, last question before we wrap. What did you have a favorite Sparkle Dungeon weapon? Can
No.
you remember any of them?
no, I
No.
remember.
Because they were the most generic things ever.
Blades per minute. I want that.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I can remember.
That or the kaleidoscope laser thing, I think would be kind of cool to see.
Kieran, what'd you say?
I said blades per minute because I thought it was a nice pun.
Yeah.
But that's all it was, though. There was no like description of it. There was like it
It was a
was a
vibrating
sword.
blade.
Yep, it was a vibrating blade, and that was
Yeah.
it. It didn't even have like a disco ball on it. It didn't have like, a description
you
of the
got
like glitter steel hilt. No, nothing.
you got the
It
disco
was
ball
blades
like
per minute.
elsewhere. That's a different weapon.
But physical descriptions of blades per minute were lacking. It was only just the name.
Oh, that's all I needed though.
I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for these like
Thanks,
bits,
Sharon. Thanks.
bits of
Sorry.
nice parts.
I think it's not a weapon, but I would like to have the wing she had, where she could change the ppm,
Uh-huh.
the beats per minute. That would be fun. Like when I need a really high beats per minute song, I can just crank it
Oh yeah.
up, and then
I want a soundtrack to accompany this book.
that would be kind of cool.
Okay. Any last thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
Hated the sentence structure.
Yeah.
I mean, this book is first person narrative. So if you hate that kind of perspective, you're going to hate this book.
I think that the thumb was on the pulse of a certain bit of internet culture occasionally, and like the little bits of humor, like an iPod Classic that I could put music on without using iTunes. That was nice. But like, they really did pop in at random moments that didn't suit the mood, though. Like we were in the apocalypse, and she was talking about her vintage iPod.
I mean, you think about what's important to you at the end of times, right?
Wow.
I just my final thoughts were there's one character in this story and she's insufferable. So
Oh,
I
I think
cannot.
she's like 40% of the book.
She held an
You know-
idiot ball for 40% of it. I'll say that.
I have a bias against first-person, narratives. It's not that I can't just, I just throw them away entirely. But yeah, this is one of the worst ones I've read.
I actually really
Yeah.
enjoyed her.
I think my problem was I like first-person narratives where there's a strong voice, but her voice was not strong. Like she was loud, but she wasn't consistent
Agreed.
in a character way consistent, if that makes sense.
I'm not consistent as a person, so
Yeah.
I bought that.
She was recklessly irreverent, which I think is
Uh-huh.
like a thing that's becoming popular, and I'm not a fan of that.
Mm.
Someone like at their job just being incredibly irreverent and doing things that would normally get you fired, but just it getting passed off as, oh, she's spunky.
Mm. I know people like that, so it wasn't. There's actually a specific former coworker that I'm thinking of, and I'm like, well, this tracks.
But
But
Yep.
but is that coworker like a protagonist?
It depends on the situation, because if you need to sick someone on a project that is just like doesn't make sense, you want to sick her on it.
Yeah. But I like throughout the first part of the book, I didn't really get the impression that she was as smart or capable as the book kept portraying her. I saw her
yeah,
actions, and they ran very counter to what I was being told about her character.
I didn't think she was like particularly intelligent. It was more of her ability to learn the power morphemes and being able to auto auto what would be the proper word for this? Speak them, I guess, for lack of a better
Enunciate.
term. Yeah, yeah.
I
Which doesn't necessarily translate to like you are a genius in everything, an intellectual genius.
I was surprised at how competent at the job she was, like at management, because she didn't come across that way. Like she came very across like shut in and how should I say, a little bit like not charis not charismatic person. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like a lot of people would be, yeah, a lot of people would be annoyed at her if you met someone like that in real life.
Well, I think the overall recommendation of this book is you're probably not going to like it. But if you do like Ready Player One, maybe give it a try. If you hate first person narrative, don't read this book. If you do want to give this book a try, maybe try the audiobook and just go with the flow.
Yep, that's required.
Yep. All right. That concludes this episode. Follow us on Twitter at Green Team Pod for some updates and fun times. If you've read this book or do read this book and want to yell at us about our thoughts here, please join us on Discord. Check out the Legendarium podcast for Wheel of Time, Cosmere, Lord of the Rings content, and so much more. Thank you to our panelists, Kyptan, Starkast, Hurinfan, and Mr. Anderson. I'm Befuddled Panda. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.